And welcome to another edition of the Take One Spoiler Cast for the movie War for the Planet of the Apes. And like as always, I have to basically give out warning. If the name didn't imply it enough, if you're listening to this is a podcast that is a spoiler review of War for the Planet of the Apes. So, if you have not seen this movie, this is a spoiler-filled review. If you want a non-spoiler, go check out on my channel the non-spoiler movie review of War for the Planet of the Apes. If you've seen it, then continue listening. If you haven't seen it and you do not care about spoilers, you just want to listen to a spoiler review, then keep on listening, because this is beyond this point spoilers. So that was my last warning, so let me proceed with these spoilers. Now, if you've listened to my if you watched my other movie review for the non-spoiler of War for the Planet of the Apes, you already know that I touched on just a lot of the stuff. I enjoyed the acting. The acting was really crazy. Woody Harrelson did a really good job. Andy Serkis did a good job as Caesar as usual. The CG was freaking phenomenal. I cannot touch on that enough. From what was done in Jungle Book, with like just how the animals look, how they had them looking. It's astounding how you can look at this and be like, question whether or not these are like, real animals or not. Like you have to question, like they look almost real, like, and it's crazy that we haven't got to the point where humans actually, where we can do like with computers with animals like we could do with humans. Or do with humans like we do with animals, and have them look basically, I guess you could call it the uncanny valley, to where you basically can generate a human face on the computer and it actually looks like a human face, to where you can't tell the difference between a human face, like a real human face, and a computer generated human face. But it's so crazy just the way that they look, even in the close-ups with the hairs, the wrinkles in the face, and all that stuff. It's like I could have swore in certain scenes, I'm like, they had to have used a real ape for this scene, or a real, just a real chimp, or whatever type of like animal that they use. It's like, damn, they had to have used a real animal for the scene, because this close-up looks freaking real. And more than likely it wasn't. It astounds me how they did with like just the look of the apes. It's crazy. And I mentioned up in the non-spoiler that this is a character piece, which it really was. It was more, I will get more to it not being a war film or whatever and everything else, but I think where they were going with this, maybe this wasn't the intention, but I think more of the war aspect comes with Caesar and just war with himself, because as we're following through this movie, Caesar has a lot put on him, from all the way from the first film to the second film and all the way to this film. He has a lot put on him. He automatically becomes their leader, because he was, I guess you could say, if I could remember all the way back to Rise, it was just, he was basically put in the forefront as the leader of this revolution of apes and baboons, or whatever, primates that follow him. He was put in the forefront of just being their leader, being the person that they look to take them to the promised land. And it shows the breakdown of him, just the rise in him, and then up in the movie Dawn, it shows kind of like the internal war between him and just what he thinks is right and what others think that is right and all that stuff. So it's kind of like a civil war within the ranks of like his his species. And this one is carried on because I guess in a sense he feels like he should have seen the turn of Koba. I believe that Koba. He should have seen him turning on him. He should have seen it. He should have did it, and it haunts him within this. So I feel like this was kind of like a war of Caesar. This was him in his internal war, with him basically feeling fault for Koba's turn and everything else, and just trying to hold everything on his shoulders. Plus, he got this new threat of humans threatening his species, just the annihilation of his species. And I'm gonna get more on to that because I didn't think it was going to be more to Woody Harrelson's character than what it was. But that was one of the things that I did like about this movie that put it on a whole new level. And it takes it away from just being a war film to just being a more of a character piece, because that's mainly what the movie was, just getting to know more about Caesar and where his mind frame is now. And just for him to see Koba or whatever throughout the whole film, and just him throughout the loss that he's going through with his sons, his wife, and stuff like that, and just a lot of creatures of his species, and it's a war with himself. He's trying to keep it together for his people. He's trying to be the leader that they need him to be, but yet he's breaking down. And he's falling into a dark path of him just seeking revenge and becoming the one thing that he don't want to become, which is Koba. And Koba's whole thing was that he was tormented and tortured, and that's how he became the person that he is. And he feels that he's becoming Koba. And he tries to fight it. He tries to fight not being Koba, but he realizes towards the end of the film that he's becoming Koba, and that he's basically accepting the fact that he is becoming him, that there is no turning back, that is what it is. He's been through all this hell. He's seen a lot of his species get murdered. He's seen his family get murdered, and it becomes a lot for him. And he gets to the point where he doesn't want to see any more murders, that he puts himself in there. He tries to sacrifice himself as like, okay, y'all get away from me, that this is my fight. This is something that I need to do. And that's basically where I feel like the war comes in. It's not really the war with the species and the humans. It's just more of the war with like Caesar and himself, and trying to do what he feels is right for his species and for his family and everything else. And I felt like it was actually done pretty good. Like, I would love to watch this movie and to get more into it. Maybe I might do a reasons why video, and whatever I don't mention or I can elaborate more in this movie or make it more organized, I probably might do that. But reasons why video is just something that's going to come out more with my channel, so I ain't gonna speak too much on that because this is it, whatever. But I love how they did that. I love the whole aspect of Caesar being tormented by his past, and just by the ghosts, I guess you could say, per se, of Koba, and just becoming something that he hates, and it's I love that whole aspect. So that's where I think the war part comes from. One of the other things I want to get on is just the villain. I say killing two birds with one stone. The motivations of, you get why Caesar is doing what he's doing, but then also you get the motivation of the villain, Woody Harrelson, he actually does really good. He is, I ain't gonna say menacing as a villain, but in the same sense, he is a threat. You get the reason why he wants to kill all the apes. You get the reason why. His motivations are clear, and I love how they did that. I didn't expect him to have the motivations that he did. I thought it was just, okay, well, they sent out a distress call, up in the last film, and now a new army is about to come in and wipe away the apes. I thought that was just what it was. But they gave him depth that he is basically, him and his little army are alone. Like, not only are they going against the apes, but they're going against other humans. So they're basically doing things on their own. And not only that, but the reason as to why he wants to wipe out the apes, simply because he found a pattern that, people that come around these apes, that the virus hasn't left. That even though it makes the apes smarter and, more intelligent, it takes that basically away from the humans. That after a while of being around these apes that are intelligent, they lose the ability to learn how to speak. And who else knows what happens after that? I mean, it maybe starts to break down their motor skills. It basically puts the apes in the evolution to where they get smarter and they become the dominant species like we are now, in being able to talk and basically being technologically advanced, while we are deteriorating in mind and all this stuff, and we become animal-like, become ape-like. So it's kind of like, it's crazy, like, because he wants to eliminate this threat. So when you put it in that sense, you get both sides fighting for what's right. So you can't even look at Woody Harrelson as a villain per se. In a sense, you can kind of look at him as a good guy, because he's fighting for the human species. And that's what's so weird about this movie, is just that when you look at it, you want to root for the apes, but at the same time you think like, hold on, I'm human. Why am I rooting for the apes? Because if this is real life, you'll be wanting to root for the humans. But in any case, it's like both sides have something worth fighting for. Both sides find each side a threat. Even though Caesar wants peace, he just wants to be left alone. He wants his species to be left alone, and then that's it. He won't go and attack people, this and that. But the humans are like the ones that are attacking. But in the same sense, with Woody Harrelson's like character, he feels like he has to do this. He has to eliminate the threat, because if he don't, that's the end of human species. That's the end of humans. And I feel like that's so crazy, like, for them to do something like that, to give more depth to his character, to make him more like, basically, I guess you could say you feel sympathy for his character, and you get why he's doing it. And I love the way that they did that. And I didn't expect them to go that route, and they did. And it was just, wow. I was like, okay, that was some good motivation. I love that they did that, because I would have probably never thought to have done that. But I mean, just the motivations that they gave these characters, and you see the mind frame and why they're doing what they're doing, it was actually done pretty well, and I enjoyed it. One of the other things that I wanted to get on was just the lost ape, and just kind of, you would think that they had a little featurette that I saw before I saw the movie, so I kind of knew what was going to happen with this character. He was kind of like, I guess you could say, the comic relief, and he actually was a pretty good character. Like, I enjoyed his character. He wasn't one of them characters that was annoying or this and that. They just threw in there to bring comic relief, and he's not funny. But he was actually a good addition to the movie. It wasn't like, oh, he was outstanding, that he was a standout, this and that. But he actually added a bit of humor to the things that he was doing and saying. And so it wasn't unbearable. it was actually like pretty entertaining. It's like you actually wanted to see more of this character because he was just funny. And even just like the way he comes into the story and just certain things that he says, that like he's just a creepy. The name escapes me. Like I said, these reviews are late, so you're gonna have to forgive me for this. But you know, if you've seen the movie, so you know what I'm talking about. But yeah, it's just he was a funny character, just funny as hell. And I mean, you got to know a little bit more about him, like even just him describing where he came from and this and that. He, you know, it was like a little bit of character development, and that's really all you needed for that character. And so he was one of them characters that you cared about, and that's one of the things that I just loved about this movie is that certain characters, even just characters that were put into this movie, that we were introduced into this movie, gave a backstory. It's like you care for these characters. You care for these characters. Even Woody Harrelson character. Towards the end, when he falls victim to what he basically was saying that he wanted to kill the apes for, which I realized that he was telling the truth, that like he wasn't like a conspiracy theorist that this is happening. It's like he wasn't just speaking out his ass, because a lot of the soldiers I noticed couldn't speak. A lot of the soldiers on his side could not speak. They, whatever. And then when you get to the last shot of Woody Harrelson and him in bed and he can't speak, you realize that, yeah, he wasn't just full of shit. He wasn't a crazy person that had this theory, this and that. That he was actually telling the truth. And it came out to realization when he basically fell victim to what he's seen other people fall victim to, what he was trying to stop. And like I said, like they broke down his character and gave him more of a motivation. You gave him some character development. So when that happened, in a weird sense, you kind of cared. Not saying that like, oh my God, this and that, but it was like, damn. So that's fucked up. Like he was telling the truth, So, and I love how they did that. Even though you would think that it should have came down to a climax to where Caesar and he both had this fight and blah blah blah. Even though that probably would have been cool, that breaks down to where it's like, they did something unorthodox. That in a sense it was kind of disappointing, because I kind of did want to see a fight between Caesar and Woody Harrelson's character, but at the same time, it shows that this is a real thing with this character, that he wasn't just talking, that this actually is something that it was true. So it made you more sympathetic to his cause. And I love the way that they did that. I love the way that they did that. I could talk all day and just how they did the protagonist and the antagonist, how they made them, I guess you could say, similar. Because they both were fighting for the same cause. There's certain differences, but they both were kind of like the same thing. They both lost their families, and they were trying to fight for the survival of their species. And it just came down to a head to where, Woody Harrelson's character, he couldn't go any further. So, I don't know. I just love that whole aspect. As well as the little girl who played Nova. Matter of fact, I didn't get to write down on the notes, but, just speaking of characters, I love like her character. Like she actually did good. Like she was actually a good character up in there. She wasn't like expendable and all that stuff, but I like her portrayal of Nova. And from what I haven't seen the original Planet of the Apes films, but I'm guessing she was a character in those films. Maybe I'm gonna go and visit, those old films. That way I can get a better idea of, okay, yeah, this is okay, that's Nova. Okay, that makes sense, blah blah. But I love her portrayal of Nova. Not that I have anything else to base off of, but I kind of I enjoyed her portrayal and just her acting as Nova, and just that character and how she cared for the apes and stuff like that. it was actually pretty cool. So I enjoyed that. Also getting on the security at the military base, it was kind of like, I guess you could say they were there, but they were non-existent as Nova snuck in to get to the apes. Like, what? So if she was able to get into that, that means that other apes, I don't know. It was bad security at the military base, but it was crazy. But like one of the other things I wanted to get on was just the battle at the end was actually pretty damn cool. Pretty damn cool. I enjoyed it a lot when everything came to a head and everything, and it was just everything was done pretty decent. I enjoyed it. That was one of the best scenes in the movie. It wasn't like what you would expect from hearing just the title War for the Planet of the Apes, but it was done in the sense to where it was like, yeah, I enjoyed it. It was a satisfactory end to the movie. And that also leads me to the last scene where Caesar dies. Which, if you're going into this movie, you kind of figure he was going to die, He wasn't going to survive and all that stuff. And he actually did what he was going to do. It's like he overcame everything. He was haunted by a cobra. He was like searching for revenge and everything else. And it got to the point where he was able to do all that and come over and like get over everything. I ain't gonna say get over, but overcome everything. And get to the point where he was able to take his species, all the rest of his people. I guess you can't call them people, but his species to a place to where they can thrive, where they can live and go on. And I just love that whole aspect of them getting to their paradise to where they can just expand and won't have to worry about a threat of humans and stuff like that. So I love the way it ends, and then him, basically just dying after he sees that he basically put his people in a safe position to where he could just die peacefully, and then that's it. He had his job done. He got his people safe, and then they can carry on everything else after that. Like, I just love just the way it ended. Now, from what I hear, this movie underperformed what it should have done, which I think it should have did a little bit more. This movie wasn't the best film. I could see how a lot of people were disappointed by it not actually being a war film. But in the same sense, it was a really good film. It was a really good film. And I feel like it should have did better than what it did. It should have been received better than what it was. But, from what I hear, is that it may have another film. That it might not just be a trilogy film. It may be a fourth film that kind of like leads a little bit into that. Which I think that they shouldn't do it, because this is it. Caesar was your main character, through the first, second, and third film. Main character. And that's basically where you need to end it off in. He dies, and then I guess, I don't know if you want to do another trilogy to go from, in between this movie and then the first Planet of the Apes movie that was made, that go into the first, the very first Planet of the Apes movie that was ever made. Maybe you can have another trilogy in between that has a different main character and goes into that, and it leads into that movie. Maybe you could do something like that, but I feel like they ended it off good. At least this trilogy, they ended it off good, and there's nowhere further that you can go with this. Maybe you go like 10, 20 years into the future or something like that, and then just go from there. But I feel like it was good. I love the way it ended, and I don't think it could have ended any better. So yeah, I was satisfied by it. But yeah, I think that's all really I have to get on about this. Everything I need to expand more about that That's about it. Maybe I will do a in-depth video, more in-depth than what this spoiler was. Maybe. We'll see. We'll see. But yeah, this concludes this Take One spoiler cast of War for the Planet of the Apes. Go ahead, like this video, subscribe, turn your notifications so you get notified for any new videos that pop up on this channel. Everything else is in the description below. Have you seen it? Go ahead, leave your comments in the section below what you thought about it and everything else. And yeah, I will catch you guys next time on the next spoiler cast for whatever movie I review. Peace out.